All right, so I wanted to just give an update on the S1H autofocus issues. There's really not anything that you can do to make it tremendously better, but I will say that there are a few things that you can tweak that can result in an overall improved autofocus experience. This camera natively is not one of those that you're going to get out of the box and do a lot of tap to focus, tap to follow, and just have a lot of the intuitive nature that you may have with, say, a Canon, or have the really incredible lock-on autofocus of a Sony. You have to be involved with the autofocus, I think, to get the most out of this. And I'll give you 3 different scenarios and different ways I tweak the autofocus. The first scenario is one that I was having the most trouble with, and that was when I first got to Halifax, trying to just focus on distant objects. Say a horizon, or a landscape, or a building, something far off in the distance, and it would really hunt in some scenarios to lock onto that. The best way I've found to actually work around this is to switch the camera over into manual focus and use back button autofocus to get it to lock on what you want it to lock on to, and then basically hit record. This is kind of a hybridized manual focus, autofocus, 2-step, but because it so struggles with pulsing and trying to find distant objects, I've just found that that's the best way to do it. If that doesn't work, then I just simply dial in my focus manually, and it's pretty easy now that you're able to actually see distance on the focus and use more of a linear step as far as your focusing goes, which the S1H allows you to do this. The second scenario is just like this, a talking head video where you're in front of the camera. And what I'll do in this scenario, and it was suggested by another vlogger and camera reviewer, is actually to set the speed and sensitivity of autofocus down to -5 and use face detect. So right now I've got it on -5 face detect. We'll be able to see if there's any pulsing in the background as you watch this. In my previous video I had it on +2 and +3 to try and get that focus to snap into place. So we'll see if this does a good job. I'm just starting to work around with this, but hopefully with this face detect 6K 24p, -5 sensitivity and speed for the autofocus settings. And I actually have my autofocus set to be able to change that speed and sensitivity by pushing the trash button, and that pulls up my autofocus speed and sensitivity. So that's hack number 2 that I've done to try and work around this. The third scenario is one where you have either a car or one of your kids or whatever kind of at an intermediate distance. And in this scenario, what I like to do is I'll do face detect and I will jack the speed up to a little more like a +2 or +3, especially if they're moving around and whatnot. You may get some of the pulsing with that, but I feel like the autofocus is just kind of so slow with this that if you kept it at a -5 or even a 0, it doesn't keep up with kind of walking, moving objects as well as what I would want. So I kind of turn that up. So those are the 3 scenarios. Distant horizons, I'll usually have it on 225 or a single spot or single area, and then once again do that hybridized manual focus with back button autofocus to get it to lock on and then record. Talking head video is going to be face detect with the slow sensitivity and speed, and then the kind of subject that you're rotating around, that you're looking at, that may be walking towards you or away from you, that's going to be the same thing, face detect, body detect, with that sensitivity turned up to a +2 or +3. A couple other things I'd like to note about this camera. It's really interesting. First thing is that the VariCam LUTs are available on the Panasonic website, and those LUTs work so incredibly well with the V-Log in this camera. Many of them, like Nice's 709, low contrast, I want to say it's like a low contrast beauty mode, vintage, 709. They are fantastic LUTs that are provided for free by Panasonic and work with the VariCam. And you can just drop those LUTs onto the log footage out of this camera, and it is really very amazing. So if you go look up and find, and I'll post it down below, the link to the VariCam LUTs, download those for free, and you can put those in over top of the log footage, and it looks incredible with little tweaking to be done. And then the final thing is that there's a lot of talk with this camera about the Open Gate 6K and how it's the first camera to be able to do that. And actually with the S1R, granted with time limits, you can get that Open Gate 6K format. It's in the 6K photo mode and it's at 30 frames per second, but you actually do get a full resolution video file that you can edit and use, and it is a 6K video file. Now it doesn't have the log footage, but it doesn't have much of a crop. It's a 1.1 crop. Actually, I take that back. It does have the crop. It has the APS-C crop. So anyway, the bottom line is though, you can get the 6K open gate type footage with that 6K photo mode out of the S1R, and I believe the S1 as well. I don't have that camera. This video was shot using the S1H with the 6K 24p or 23.98 on autofocus continuous with the face detect, sensitivity -5, speed -5, and with the 24 to 105 lens kind of varying things. I want to thank you for watching this. Really a really good camera, especially for video, especially if you like to shoot and grade your footage. Image stabilization's great. I wish the autofocus was better, but if you work with it in a dynamic nature and kind of figure out a workflow to get around some of the autofocus issues, it's overcomable. So thank you for watching, and leave any comments down below. Thanks.